Hello, this is Dr. Kathy Marshak. Nobody's here yet, but you will soon be. I just wanted to get started and so that the word got out that I'm here. And we're going to look at the comment section. Let's see here. Let me close a few things just to make sure that we are having an easy time getting everything up. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. So, I'm hoping that you can hear me. I've got my AirPods going. I'm going to double check that this is what you're hearing. And if, as people join, if you would make a little comment and let me know that you're here, because I don't know unless you put something in the comment section that you've joined me. And we're officially not supposed to start for 3 more minutes, but I wanted to just get the video started, make sure everything's working. Let's see, it says frame rate slow. Okay, it looks like it's fine. Well, hi there, Louise. Good, I'm glad somebody finally made it. I did start a couple minutes early just to make sure that that everything was working okay. And can you hear me? Oh, Linda, good. Let me know if you can hear me. I know you said you're there, but that doesn't mean that this is all working. I put my AirPods in thinking that that might make it a little bit easier for people to hear me. People talk, I have mentioned in the past that the actual computer sounds are not, or my system isn't working very well. But if you can hear me, that's great. And let's see here. Oh, what did I do with? Oh, everything's falling down on the floor here. Oh, good. You can hear me. That's great. I am. I have to apologize for having started. Oh, Linda says she has to use her earbuds so that your voice is loud enough for me. All good, great. Yeah, it's the darndest thing. I'm not quite sure why it is that my system doesn't work very well, but it just doesn't. It's a MacBook. It should be fine, but you never know about these things. Also, you might occasionally see a little kitty cat's ears uh, showing up on the screen because my elderly cat has decided to sit in my lap. And so I've wrapped her in a little blankie and I'll just kind of keep her snug while we're talking. If you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat. Oh, good. Hi, Melina. So people, it says, okay, and she's also using earbuds. No worries. Okay, good. I don't know what else to do. It's the internet and technology isn't my strength, but let's get going. I'm sure more people are going to join us now that we're officially on time. And in fact, I'm officially late. We were supposed to do this live a couple of weeks ago, and it was conflicting with something else that already had been scheduled, and it didn't work out, and to rearrange things, and I'm so sorry. So I wasn't able to tell you everything that was going on in October before we got started. But I'm hoping that we can still answer a lot of the questions that you might have had 2 weeks ago on this topic of invisibility. So let me kind of get going with that. The topic for October is, do you feel invisible in your neurodivergent relationship? And I absolutely know that I sure did. And it was very disheartening and it made me feel off balance. So I'm sure that's something that all of you can relate to. I'm just scrolling through the comments, by the way. If you see me kind of looking off to the side, I'm looking to see who's here so that I can answer questions if people have them for me. So if that looks a little odd, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, do you feel invisible in your neurodivergent relationship? You know, I usually never have to explain to our community of neurotypicals with loved ones on the autism spectrum what it feels like to be invisible in your neurodivergent relationship. When I use that term, everybody goes, oh yes, I know what that means. And when I say everybody, I mean those people who are part of our MeetUp group, Asperger's syndrome partners and family of those adults with autism spectrum disorder. Oh, hi, Lori. You made it. So when you live in this lifestyle for a very brief period of time, you start understanding what that means. What it basically is that people on the spectrum, because they don't read between the lines, because they don't read the context of the relationship, because they actually don't address you, they address a topic, they fail to send us signals that were recognized, heard, affirmed, and even loved. But after years of even a short few months with a neurodiverse person, this sense of invisibility is hard to shake. So one of the problems with this is that we don't even realize it's happening. It sort of sneaks up on us. What we're doing is maybe having a conversation, and we're waiting for our neurodiverse partner to kind of nod their head or look in our direction or go, oh, as they gather what it is that we are telling them. It's not the subject, it's that we are talking to them. So when we wait like that and nothing happens, then we might say, hi, Lynn. We might say, there's another a prompt that we'll give them to get some feedback. And without that feedback, that interactive feedback, we're not sure we're being heard or noticed. Okay? It's not that you're needy. A lot of people on the spectrum will refer to their neurotypicals as needy. It's not that you're needy, it's just the way we process information. We are checking out if the other person is with us, if they're joining us in the conversation. It's kind of why I'm looking over in the comments section to see who's here, to see if I'm, answering your question or if what I'm saying is making sense. And it's harder when I'm doing a Facebook Live because I'd rather be looking at people, or even on the phone. You can hear somebody breathing or about ready to say something, and so you stop and hear what they have to say. These interactive methods of knowing who we are vital to our brain chemistry and our body chemistry. The neurotransmitters are firing when we get that kind of feedback. We enjoy giving that feedback to the other person. Interactive neurotypical people are looking at, how do I step into the world of the other person, and how do I invite them into my world? What is it that I need to say or do so that happens? Whereas your neurodiverse family members, partners, friends, coworkers, and so forth, these folks are more transactional. I like to say they lean transactional. Kathy from Chicago, great. And she says, boy, can I relate. Yep. So what happens is your transactional family members are listening to what you're saying. They're listening to the words. They're trying to make sense of what those words mean, analytically. And so they're not just waiting for your next sentence. They're not waiting for you to appear. They're just listening to the words, like they might be taking notes at a college lecture. So the problem with that is that they don't know that they're not acknowledging you, affirming you, noticing that you're the person who's talking. They're not doing that. And we're sitting there waiting to be acknowledged before we go to the next point we're going to make, or until we ask them a question. We're waiting. And that constant waiting makes you feel invisible. It's like, well, I don't know. Why am I even talking to this person? He or she is not listening. Oh, there's Magni from Norway. Oh, I'm so glad you made it. I don't even know what time it is there for you. I hope it's not the middle of the night. Might be late. It's not too late, is it? No, it's like 8 or 9 or something. So, and oh, good. People are talking to each other. Feel free to do that too. That really helps because this is a group that needs to know that other people experience this. One of the problems with invisibility is that we begin, when our partner treats us like we're not really in the room, that they're just listening to a recording, we're not sure that we are okay, that we're making sense. So, one of the really incredible things about our meetup group is that you get a chance to talk to other people who are living with the same kind of invisibility. 9:15 in Norway. Okay, perfect time. Everybody, all the kids are asleep, right? And you can finally have some privacy. So, oh, let me get to these questions. Keep going. I'll try to scroll through them in just a minute. I want to make sure I get everything, off my list here, and then we're ready to talk to each other. The meetup group is absolutely. I think I put the link in. Yeah, I think I put the link in the intro for this Facebook Live. So click that link, join our group. I have video conferences, teleconferences. This Facebook Live is posted there. There's discussion boards where you can go and talk to each other. We have the teleconferences are recorded, and if you're a regular paid member of the group, it's $25 a year to be a member of the group. That's all it is. That just is to cover sort of basic stuff. You can attend. You can not only attend the teleconferences, but you can go to our special page where I've saved them, and you can listen to many years worth of teleconferences. There's lots and lots of information there because I've been doing this group since 2009. So I don't have every teleconference recorded since 2009, but we have quite a few there. So I know people will sometimes just put their AirPods in and listen to 2 or 3 teleconferences while they're driving someplace or while they're doing housework, just to kind of be reminded that you're not alone. And then if you can attend them live, that's even better. Then the video conferences are not recorded. They are a small group of folks. Good morning, Julie. Is it morning there in New Zealand? She says morning. I bet it is. I never know. And it's tomorrow there. Yeah, it's tomorrow morning there. There we go. I knew it was something like that. Anyway, the video conferences are not recorded because I want people to be able to feel free to talk and share with a small group of people. We'll have 8, 9, 10 people in a video conference. And you do have to sign up ahead of time for those. There is a fee for those small group conferences. And I usually offer 2 or 3 of the same topic each month so that if you miss one, you can get into the other. And we also have just started offering bonus conferences in case there's a topic that's so popular that we have to put an extra one on for the month. So I'm going to talk about what these topics are that are left for October. Then at the end of this month, I will tell you what's happening in November. And I do that once a month on Facebook. So here's the thing about the video conferences. You aren't invisible there. Everybody gets you. And even if this is the first time you're meeting people, even on a Zoom conference, they get you. They know the experience. It's just like you're seeing all these comments here in the Facebook Live comment section. People are saying, yes, that's what I live with. Yes, absolutely. And you're sharing back and forth. There's something empowering to know that this neurodivergent lifestyle isn't so unusual and mysterious. We can make sense of it. By the way, I forgot to mention, I call it NeuroDivergent because we're talking about a neurotypical in relationship with somebody who's neurodiverse. And when these two people get together, they seem to have a neurodivergent relationship. So the goal is to figure out how to get that neurodivergence back together as best you can, even though you are not going to be always speaking the same language, especially since us neurotypicals are interactional and neurodiverse people are more transactional. Actually, I learned some new language yesterday. I have a software engineer, researcher person who's on the spectrum, and he said he prefers the terms synchronized and asynchronized. And I rather like that concept too. He said it's less pejorative. So if you're talking about a transactional style, that person is asynchronous because they're using their cognitive understanding not in synchrony with their emotional understanding of you, and that's why you don't feel affirmed. Whereas we are using synchronous empathy. Empathy is using your cognitive and your emotional understanding to read the context and the person and invite them in. That's synchronous. So I think whatever words you use, it's important to understand that basic idea that neurodivergence is moving apart or asynchronous, or an asynchronous individual is working with a synchronized individual, and we're missing the affirmation of our emotional being. Okay, so let me talk about the conferences that are coming up. The ones that just passed are How to Shake Your Invisibility and Do We Need Empathy to Love? And these topics were so popular, by the way, that I had to add an extra one for each one of these topics. So I'm willing to do that if we get really booked. And don't worry, even though you missed these, I will repeat them sometime during the year again, and you'll be able to take those topics. So the teleconference also just passed. That was on October 13th, and that was the one where I was talking about people on the spectrum lying. And it is recorded, so if you're a paid member of our group, you can go to the recordings, download, and listen. Oh, and people are talking about my course, and I'll get to that in just a minute. By the way, in terms of the lying stuff, what's really important is all people lie. This is not just people on the spectrum. But what we talked about in this teleconference is sort of the odd way in which people on the spectrum lie. And I can talk about that more if you have questions. Okay, so the one event that's left is the video conference on October 17th and October 19th. Do neurodiverse people think in pictures? And of course, most of them do, or some of them aren't aware that they think in pictures. But what's that have to do with invisibility? Well, again, it's not thinking about you. It's thinking about what you're talking about. So this kind of relates to the lying and the invisibility. If they're recording things more in a visual way, there's not always words for it. They're just waiting to get what you're saying. But they're not including that you are the one who's speaking. So again, about the lying, a lot of times you'll say, well, did you understand? And they'll say yes, but they didn't. Or they'll say, well, you said this and this and this when you know you didn't, and it feels like gaslighting because they didn't record the information verbally. And I can go into that even more if you want me to too. Daniela wanted me to tell you what a couple of people have said. For example, with the teleconference just yesterday, Sandy posted, it was really sweet. She says, thank you again for another hour of connection with women who truly understand the journey. I guess there were mostly women on the call. They're mostly women in our group, but the men are around too. Don't forget, women are on the spectrum just as much as men are. It's a slightly different system, but it's still, women on the spectrum have more in common with men on the spectrum than neurotypicals. So it's important, but generally it's a group of women. Today's question, she says, I'm encouraged by the sisterhood of similarity. She says, today's questions and sharing from other women had me nodding in agreement once again. Lies of omission and how much stress this type of lie creates when a simple, truthful answer would have been the best option. I continue to learn so much from you, Dr. Kathy. Your insights and compassion are so essential. Thank you. That's really sweet. I love getting messages like that. And then this is what somebody said um, about the conferences coming up. Do neurodiverse people think in pictures? Dr. Kathy, I just listened to the conference. I feel so much better whenever I listen to these group events or read your thoughts on this meetup group. I totally understand what all the other people calling in feel about being married to an Aspie. It is comforting to be a part of a group that totally gets it. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and for leading this group. You do so much for us. I would be a total basket case without hearing your wise words and without hearing the shared thoughts of the others in this group. I do want to remind you that it isn't just me. I think I'm an asset because I cracked the code here of what's going on in neurodivergent relationships. But the strength of our numbers is really what's important. It's getting together with other people who get it. And as you get an insight, somebody else gets an insight, and somebody else gets an insight. And then you take those insights and change some behaviors to help make your relationships work better. As a matter of fact, we do have also a free video conference once a month that's hosted by Julie, our New Zealand, I think she's here. Yeah, I said hi to her, so I know she's here. Julie in New Zealand hosts, she's our ambassador. She's been with our group for many, many years. She's so knowledgeable about how the group works, how we as a group work internationally, electronically, on our website. So Julie hosts a monthly free video call for anybody, mostly new people, but you can also go if you want to just kind of hang out and get to know other members. And what's nice about the new member group is that sometimes you're kind of nervous to ask a question, or you think you're so unique that nobody else could possibly understand you. And then you go to the group and you go, oh, there's a pattern here that other people share with me, and and I get it. And they get me, and that just feels so dang good. And it doesn't matter what continent you're on. You can be in New Zealand like Julie. You can be in Canada. You can be in Italy. You can be in Australia. It just doesn't matter, because it's the interaction problems. I call it when worlds collide, right? The world of the neurotypical and the neurodiverse is worlds colliding and not kind of getting each other. Okay, there's one more thing, and people have discussed this a little bit in the comment section, that I just launched my recorded video course, and I put a link in the intro there that you can go and learn more about the video course. It's recorded so that you can watch it at your own speed, and your neurodiverse partner can watch it. It's not designed just for the neurotypical. Our meetup group is limited to neurotypicals just because I want people to feel free to talk with each other openly about what's going on, and we don't have to worry about offending or hurting our neurodiverse loved ones with a kind of a harsh comment. But the recorded course, I tried to address both neurodiverse ways of looking at things and neurotypical ways of looking at things, so that a couple could watch it, or you could watch it individually and then chat with each other. There's worksheets, there's quizzes. I put movie trailers in so that you could kind of entertain yourself with Hollywood's notion of neurodivergent couples. At any rate, so far people seem to be liking it and have reported that they're noticing changes already in their partners when they're watching it together. So that's pretty cool. And it is brand new, so I'm okay with you giving me feedback about how to make it better. So I was looking at the comments, and Lori was so sweet. She says, Julie's awesome and a whole lot of fun too. So she's talking about Julie Rollins, our ambassador. Julie is fun, but she's smart. She knows what she's talking about. She's lived with people on the spectrum for decades. So she's a huge help when you want to know, from just another member who's been around for a while. let's see if I can scroll back here for questions. Okay. I think I'm back at the beginning. Okay. Um, oh, that's really sweet. Um, where did it go here? Louise and Melina were talking about being introverts and so forth, and you don't need a lot of recognition, but it's really not true. Introverts need just as much as extroverts. It's how we talk. I'm an introvert. We need to acknowledge that the other person's there, even if you just nod your head. Even if, as they walk into the room, you turn and you look at them and you smile, right? You're acknowledging that human being first. What they're saying is secondary. The person comes first for us neurotypical interactive folks. And you're right, we don't need much, but it's a lot for the neurodiverse because of their empathy, their lack of empathy. They hate it when I say they have a lack of empathy. That's like this other person offered me asynchronous, but it feels like a lack of empathy. That's what Simon Baron-Cohen says. He says this is the same as zero. Simon Baron-Cohen's an author and a researcher, and he came up with the autism quotient. So you can Google him, but he said it's the same as zero because if they're only noticing the words, then they're missing the empathy. And so it's important to realize that they're not withholding empathy. They're just not aware that there's a message over there they're supposed to acknowledge. So instead they opt for responding to your words. Okay, let's see here. 2 months ago, I gave my husband a list of absolutes for a marriage. He read it, and his response was, "Haven't I been doing all that?" No. He was aghast. I was feeling dismissed and ignored. So this is from Melina. Yeah. Remember, they don't know they're missing the contextual pieces of a relationship. So when you give someone what you consider your absolutes or your bottom line or boundaries, things like that, if you give that to a neurodiverse person, they may follow the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. Does that make sense? They don't know why you're asking for that. We know because we want to know that we're appreciated. In fact, one of my favorite stories is one day I was, when I was still married to my neurodiverse spouse, I just hadn't heard from him for a while, whether he even noticed I was alive. So I said, "Hey, do you love me? Do you love me?" And he looked at me and he said, "You're not the only woman I could have married." And I was going, well, that's not exactly the response I expected. And I said, well, I kind of agreed with that. I mean, it's logical. I said, well, yeah, I get that I'm not the only person you could have married, but I just, do you love me? And he said, "You don't need a sycophant." Yeah, you don't need a sycophant. And when he said that too, I just kind of went, I don't even know what that was. I had to figure out what a sycophant was. And it's this archaic term that means somebody who just tells you what you want to hear, just wants to make you feel good. And I thought, I don't want somebody just to tell me what I want to hear. I would like to know if we're connecting. Or do you still love this person you're married to, or am I just the housekeeper? So they don't know, right? They don't know. And I want to talk about this. Louise is saying, yeah, I feel like I don't exist. If you feel like that for too long, you're going to get sick. You'll get depressed. You'll shut down. You won't see your friends. So it's very important to shake off this. Even when your neurodiverse loved one is working really hard to acknowledge you, because many of them are in therapy and working really hard to say the right thing. Like, "Good morning, sweetheart. Would you like a cup of coffee?" Even if they just have to follow a rule, right? They're trying. But it's still not enough because you keep getting triggered, right? You keep getting triggered that I'm not here, I don't count. I have to ask if you love me. I don't want to do that. So you have to be engaging in life anyway, right? You have to go out and be with friends, uh, you know, do work that you really love, you know, rearrange your garden so that you just love being out there. Invite friends to come over, play tennis, whatever it is you need to do to be true to yourself and engage with human beings in the world, because you're going to go home and be triggered over and over again that you don't exist. Oh, Louise, this is great. She says my AS is really understanding what Dr. K is saying in her course, and he's not arguing with her. It's a win for me. Not sure if any changes will last, but we can go back and watch it again. Good. I'm glad you're watching it together or separately together. This is great feedback for me, because I really wanted to make sure that I was also speaking to the neurodiverse person, that it was making sense in their world, because as a neurotypical, I'm still having to translate. So that's wonderful that it's making sense to him and that he is trying to make some changes. Oh, and Julie says that teleconferences are gold. So absolutely, they are. And there's just all kinds of things to learn. Oh, Melina, yes. She says she loves those words. We've been diverging and now working on merging. One of the things I call it in my course is an interface protocol. You need to build an interface protocol, a protocol that brings these two worlds back together as much as you can, right? The love is there, or if the love is there. If the love is there, you ought to be able to build an interface protocol, but that doesn't mean that your neurodiverse person is going to suddenly understand all the neurotypical subtleties that you've lived your life with, right? And it doesn't mean that as neurotypicals, we can totally get into the world of cognitive only. Cognitive only would be really different, wouldn't it? I don't know if anybody's got a way to describe that. And another thing, oh, by the way, when I say that they don't have empathy, I do believe that's true, because empathy is something that's in the moment. But if what I try to teach my neurodiverse clients is take your time, take a break, go away, write things down, ponder what it is that was going on between the two of you, and maybe later, when all the anxiety's out of the way and your neurotypical isn't there anymore, you can figure out what's going on. It's not that you can't assess all the various cues that are in the relationship if you're neurodiverse. It's just that you don't know how to use them in that time, in the immediate moment. And so even if your neurotypical feels invisible, you could go back later and say, I didn't mean to say you needed a sycophant or you don't need a sycophant. I didn't recognize that I haven't often enough told you how much I love you. If your neurodiverse person comes back to you later and says something like that, all's forgiven, right? You'll be happy. It would feel better if it was right in the moment, but if he or she comes back later and offers that I really want to make this up to you, okay, we can go for that. Oh, this is sweet too. Louise also says, I think of ways out of this craziness, because of course many times we just want to escape. And then she says, but then I do appreciate some of his brain, and he answers things I don't understand, and I'm not sure how living alone would be, since I don't know what she means by this last part, but yeah, we can love somebody for a variety of reasons, a variety of contributions they make, right? But if we're waiting for neurotypical empathy, that's not likely to happen. Let's see here. Oh, Louise, you're selling my course. This is great. She's talking about it. I tried to set it up into little tiny bites. A little video here, a little discussion, a little video, a little discussion, so that it sort of builds on itself. I start off kind of slow, and then it eventually goes into um, the major concepts. Because if you just jump to trying to build an interface protocol and you don't even understand neurodivergence, why it happens, interaction, transactional, all these things, if you don't get it, you're going to have a hard time. Melina, for 4 decades, I couldn't figure out why he never acknowledged me when I came home from somewhere by myself. He never asked me, how did it go? Did you have a good time? Right. We ask those questions because what that is, by the way, is when you go away from the person, if you're gone for a day, a week, an hour, when we come back, we're reconnecting. We're reconnecting the energy between us. So we say, well, how was your day? Or where'd you go? Did you meet anybody new? Or how was their new baby? Well, we ask these kind of questions to step back into our sweetheart's reality. They don't ask those questions because that's just information to them. They can learn to ask those questions, and even then it will feel a little awkward. But if they're learning to ask the question, if they're trying, do your best to get past that awkward stuff. Let's see here. It's very common for Melina and Louise are discussing using your name. They don't often use your name, which is another transactional thing. If they're listening to your words, your name is not relevant. The name for us is relevant. Even if we just say a nickname, hi honey, right? How many of your loved ones don't even want to say honey or dear or, sweetie or a little nickname? We do that. We do that because that's our way of connecting with that human being first. That's our special name for you. So even if it's a formal name, like I have a client, sometimes people on the spectrum will give you a nickname though, but it's usually an odd nickname. So one of my clients called me, my last name's Marshak, so he would call me Dr. Marshak. And then one day he came in and he said to my secretary, my office manager, he called her Moneypenny and he called me Dr. M. And I said, well, that would make you James Bond. And so we had fun with that, but it really didn't fit me. I'm not really M. But I want you to get that. Even using somebody's name is endearing. It makes it feel like if you use my name or I use your name, we're there for each other. Yeah, the comments about not getting triggered. I don't see how we get away from that. I think we're going to get triggered over and over again because we respond so quickly to the energy in the room. And if the energy is dropped, we respond to that too. That's why I think you take care of yourself with exercise and eating well and being with loving, beautiful friends and being creative, knitting, painting, writing, playing music, entering marathons. Anything that helps you be a creative expression of you helps keep this energy of yours going. Melina says, my H is a retired computer programmer, a very good one, so this phrase, interface protocol, was understood by him. Exactly. Yeah. Well, you need to know, Melina, I got that from a software engineer. I was chatting with him one day and he said, oh, I think it's like my wife and I have different CPUs at different, platforms in our CPUs. And I said, well, what do you do when you've got different CPUs and they don't communicate with each other? And he said, oh, you have to build an interface protocol. I thought it was brilliant, and I've adopted it just like I like that synchronous and asynchronous from the other software engineer. So Ellen, hi Ellen, that's a really good question. How do you explain to your young adult kids that the way their dad treats me is not the way to treat others? I think it's too late. By the time they're young adults, you're not going to explain this is not the way to treat other people. unless they want to talk with you about it, they might bring it up and then you can talk about it. But I think it's mostly something we have to model. So by the time we haven't been modeling it, by the time we've been, well, for example, my nanny years ago, when my kids were little, my nanny said, "Why do you let Howard, my former spouse," she says, "Why do you let him boss you around?" And I was going, I don't think I let him boss me around. I don't know what she's talking about. But what she was talking about was the way he treated me. In his neurodiverse way, didn't call me by name. He would just respond to facts or pepper me with questions. And so what she got was that sense that I was being disrespected or bossed around. So she picked that up within a month of coming to live with us. So your kids have been seeing that for a long time. I doubt that they can put words to it. On the other hand, if your partner is willing to get diagnosed, go to treatment, and realize that they have a responsibility to help your children heal from this chaos of a neurodivergent family, that's a big help. I'm hoping that I do address that, by the way, a little bit in the course when I talk about children growing up in neurodivergent families, both neurotypical children and autistic children. So, I think the best way to deal with young adults is to have both parents talk to them. Hi, Peggy. I haven't talked to you in a long time. It says, can you talk about the AS and aging? Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, Louise says the same thing. There's not a lot of research on the aging issue, but the research in general on aging is that as long as we are healthy and we're engaging our brains in something meaningful, we're going to be fine. There's also research about if you've gotten past age 50 or 60 and haven't had a major illness, your intellectual capacity is probably going to be fine until the last 6 months of your life when everything sort of goes. People on the spectrum, well, okay, so what I can say is that if you're an anxious person or if you've rigidly been hanging on to a method of interacting in the world that's maybe not very functional, I don't think you're going to get better as you get older. I think you have to break through those methods. And so it can be quite an identity crisis for people on the spectrum to wake up and realize that they've been interpreting you or their life incorrectly according to us neurotypicals. It's incorrect if you don't acknowledge the human being, that sort of thing. So I think we need more research on this. I don't know if autism spectrum disorder is more related to any kind of degenerative disease or anything like that. I really don't know. I do know that people on the spectrum have more sensory sensitivities than the rest of us. So what we see is a lot of depression, anxiety, and gastrointestinal problems, things like that. So I wish I had a better answer for you. Yeah, Melina, that's really good. One of the best pieces of advice from me is stop taking it personally. She says she's been doing this for a few months now, and boy, is life so much more peaceful. Yeah, when you realize this is neurodiverse behavior, it's not about you. Or when you're feeling invisible and hurt, and you stop and say, "Oh, he's listening to my words. She's listening to the content, not to me." It's not personal. It doesn't mean you still don't wish it would listen to you, but they're not withholding. It's just that method of processing. Right. Julie says the same thing. Makes a difference. Take the emotion out of it. They don't mean to say the darndest things. They just think they're talking to you about the subject, and you're talking to them, and the subject is secondary. So let's see here. Oh dear, there's so many new comments. I haven't been keeping up. I'm trying to read what Ellen said. Okay, let's see here. Everybody's chatting. Well, I don't even know if I need to be here in the room. You might as well just keep chatting with each other. Let's see here. Don't want to miss people. Good word, chaos. Oh my goodness. Oh, Ellen's laughing. That you might be called honey or dear, or Hayweave in response to that. You know, one of the sad things for me is that my ex-husband wouldn't even respond to when his children would call him dad. He'd have to be, my mom was like that as well. My mother was on the spectrum, and if I'd say, hey mom, and she just wouldn't turn around. I don't think she didn't hear my voice, didn't hear the name mom. So that's sad for kids to not be acknowledged either. So Maggie says, my husband has been going to therapy, and I know the therapist has been helping him to understand that he's not responsible for my feelings. It's just that it's a problem because even though that is right, it's only making him feel justified. Yeah, boy, this is a good one, Maggie. What Magnie's talking about here is that when a therapist does not understand neurodivergent relationships, they may literally give bad advice to tell someone on the spectrum that they're not responsible for your feelings. That's bad advice. It's not that they're not responsible for your feelings. Of course, you're responsible for your feelings, and you can step aside from the emotions and try to understand where they're coming from. But we take responsibility for how others feel about our behavior. You don't have to beat yourself up for it. If you've hurt someone's feelings or they're feeling hurt and you didn't intend it, we still want to step in and repair that break. Does that make sense? That disconnect. So it's not really a good idea to tell someone who's neurodiverse that they're not responsible for your feelings. What's important is to say, you have an effect on your spouse. She's having feelings about that. That's feedback to you, right? That's feedback about what's going on with her. But that's going to take a lot of therapy for someone on the spectrum to comprehend what that means really, because they're not communicating with you, they're communicating about the subject. So I hate to say this, there's a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and social workers and marriage and family therapists who really mean well, but if they are assuming that both partners have the full range of empathy, they're making a mistake. So the best you can do, it's not like you can go tell that therapist to do it differently, but the best you can do, Magni, is to know that you're right. Okay, so yeah, talking about the aging issue. Yeah, we get this like, oh, Julie's leaving. Okay, make sure you check in with Julie on our MeetUp page. And I guess I'm going to have to wrap up here in a little bit too, but I want to make sure there's so many things rolling past on the comments page and I'm missing most of them. Oh, yes, again, this aging issue. So many of you have been in these relationships before your partner was diagnosed. Or even when they were diagnosed before you met, neither one of you knew much about what that meant for the relationship. So we psychologists might have studied autism, but rarely was anybody looking at how autism and neurotypical mixes, where that works and where it doesn't work. And so that's the real problem that's sort of emerged in the last few years as we're looking at these terribly difficult relationships. You know, one of the things that's coming up on this comments with aging is the normal things about aging, the hearing loss, the forgetting things. If you're transactional and you don't hear something, then it didn't happen. Does that make sense? That's that black and white thinking. So that's what is so frustrating for neurotypicals, is if you're dealing with an aging person on the spectrum who also doesn't hear very well, anybody who has a hearing loss, if they don't hear it, they act as if it wasn't said. But if someone's a neurotypical with a hearing loss, I can say to them, do you suppose there's some things that are going on that you can't hear? And they will believe that. And I'll say, then you might have to find a different system for making sure that you're tracking what your loved one is telling you, rather than just trusting your hearing. Oh, Patricia, I am sorry that there's a lot of bad mental health professionals out there. Um, so, she said that her spouse was willing to go in and get a diagnosis, met for 20 minutes with a psychiatrist, and was given a prescription for anxiety. That's that's just a psychiatrist who does not understand the problem. The prescription may help, though, for the anxiety. That's a start. But I would seek out, okay, here's something you can do in terms of looking for places to go to get a thorough screening. There's your autism societies. In the US, every state has an autism society. Canada has autism societies. I'm sure New Zealand and so forth. There's all this. There's got to be. If not, check the local universities for autism treatment programs or autism research programs. Look and see if they have a clinic that will do an evaluation. And Louise mentions that there's the online test. There's a number of online quizzes for high functioning autism, and my favorite is Simon Baron-Cohen's Cambridge test of the autism quotient. It's pretty accurate, even though it's just a screening tool. I wanted to get back to let's see here. Sharon says, I'm concerned that because he doesn't believe me, that he will extend to things I bring to the table, like your class, but he will discount that too, because if it's not his idea, and that's this is kind of a problem that comes up a lot with neurotypicals. We interpret the neurodiverse tendency to say no, or I don't like that, or I won't do it. We hear that, and it seems pretty emphatic, right? But that's a transactional way. That's not a conversation. We think if we said that, we would mean absolutely not, I'm not doing this. They don't know we're opening up a conversation on the topic of evaluating them for autism. We're just opening up the conversation. We're not asking for a yes or no answer. We're opening up a conversation on this. When they say no, you can say things like, I understand that you're not interested right now. I still like you to think about it. And we'll talk again this evening after dinner. And after dinner, you talk again, and you bring it up, and he or she says, I already told you no, I don't want to hear this. And then you're supposed to say something like, okay, I got it that you're not real interested, but this is important to me, so I'm going to send you a couple of articles that I'd like you to read, and then we'll talk after you've read that stuff. I guarantee you, if you keep bringing it up like that, they're going to open their mind to the possibility that there's something else you're trying to tell them. I know people sometimes say they don't believe me because they've got this emphatic no, but remember, there's a lot of reasons that transactional people say no. One is they're transactional, so they think everything is black and white, yes or no, right or wrong. But another reason they say no is it's like the lying. They say no because they don't know what else to say. They haven't heard what you're talking about, or it sounds kind of threatening to them, so they go, no, I don't want a sandwich. And then a little bit later, they're out in the kitchen making a sandwich, and you said, I was going to make you a sandwich. you said you didn't want one. And they don't remember you even asking. Or they say, well, I didn't want a sandwich then, but I want one now. And it's bad problem solving, isn't it? So don't give up. Don't think that they're not going to do something just because they've said no. And I can talk more about that another time. We're almost out of time. I'll make sure everybody here. Oh, right. One of the things that you all have going for you is me, or somebody like me. Louise is saying, my AS thinks and can see that Dr. Kathy's an expert, so he's listening to me. And so many times that's true. You go to the therapist, and so many of my clients say, how come she or he is listening to you, but I say the same thing and they won't listen to me? You've got a track record with that person of, arguments and hard feelings and whatever. And it just is what it is. Turn it over to the expert a lot of times and you get it. Yeah, this is a good comment too, Sharon. She says he's open to the idea that he is neurodiverse. He just doesn't believe me that I experience life differently than him. Then that turns into he just doesn't believe me. He says it's because he sees me making all kinds of excuses. Many people, the first stage is, first of all, they say, no, I don't want to get a diagnosis. Then they get the diagnosis and they say, yeah, that fits me, but I don't have any problems. Which, of course, is not exactly accurate. If it fits you, trying to see how Asperger's or autism affects other people is, by the very definition, what autism is about. The difficulty understanding where the other person is coming from is autism. It's that lack of social reciprocity. That's part of the definition in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. So it takes somebody on the spectrum a long time to understand that they are having an effect on you. They may notice your effect, but they may say that effect is, your fault. You're just making it up, as opposed to, I wonder how I'm contributing to how she or he is feeling. And you all understand that. When we understand that we're contributing to the other person's state, it doesn't mean I'm causing it on purpose. It doesn't mean I'm trying to make them miserable. It just means that because I wore these earrings today, somebody's alarmed. Actually, it is true. I have some people who are worried that they're so spiky that I might hurt myself, and they're really pretty lightweight. Though I just wanted to wear them today because we got sunshine. Okay. Oh, thank you, Melina. She put a link there to the teleconference page. So, and by the way, that's my other website. That's our private membership site for the teleconferences. You can also go there to make an appointment with me if you want to, and you can go there to register for the recorded course. Well, let's see if there's anything else here that I missed. By the way, yeah, Lori mentions that her wife is also very hard of hearing, and boy, that's a double whammy, because first of all, they don't often, they're not listening to you. Then if their hearing doesn't work very well, if they're getting worse over time, or if they've always had a hearing loss, people that are hearing impaired, often there's a higher percentage of autism among the hearing impaired, by the way. And we think that the relationship is that we need that hearing to be able to develop the full range of empathy skills. So if you think about it, people that have been had a hearing loss since they were children, or were born with it, or got it fairly early on, there's a lot of skill building, interactive skill building they didn't get. And so, it's probably a similar population if you're just looking at the hearing impaired, but it's definitely a higher percentage of autistic individuals in the hearing impaired population. I found that really fascinating. Okay, um, I think I got through to everybody's question. If I didn't, I'll review these again after the session's over. Um, oh, that's so sad. Patricia was talking about her spouse felt scared after he took the test and realized, or maybe that's Louise, somebody that, that it was frightening to discover that he was on the spectrum. I do want to say one more thing about that. All of this is frightening for neurotypicals and the neurodiverse because it means you have to expand your consciousness to include that there's things out there in the world that you didn't realize existed, and that maybe your definition of yourself is inaccurate, because if you've been relating to information that's not true, or you've been taking everything personally and the person meant it differently, then you see how that will change your perspective. That's back to the question on parenting, and Ellen's question on parenting young adults. It's like, if the message they got from their parents isn't accurate, then who are you? Right? That's where I kind of went with this. I had a parent on the spectrum. My mother was on the spectrum, and she gave me the darndest feedback about who I was. And it really took me a long time to realize that mom was doing her best. She uh, cooked well and made sure we had wholesome food and a beautiful home, and encouraged our educations. But oh my gosh, her notion of me was way off base. Okay, oops, it says one more new comment, and then I probably ought to wrap it up. Oh, that's sweet, Melina. It says his diagnosis was a huge relief. He's now putting together all the pieces through his life, and the light bulbs are coming on. That's wonderful. See, if you just approach it like that, then you go, well, I mean, I have everything to gain, right? I have everything to gain, nothing to lose, except notions that don't work and have been gumming up my life anyway. So make sure that you don't feel worried about it if you didn't get a chance to, put your comment in there. I will go back, like I said, and answer as many of these questions. You can also message me through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. I will respond. You can go to the MeetUp group and message me there. And then, and I do hope you take the course. Honestly, I just talk about everything in that course, that everything I could think of that you might need to know. It's all recorded. You could, when you buy the course, you can, you have unlimited time to watch it. It's not on any time frame. You can watch it 10 times if you want to. And I really do recommend that both partners watch it, or if you've got adult children, you have them watch it, because I'm an adult child of someone on the spectrum, right? I had a neurotypical father and an autistic mother. I know what it's like to grow up like that. I raised an autistic child. I married an autistic man. I get it. And I'm a psychologist, so I kind of like wrapped all that stuff together and said, well, how do we put this out there so that it's going to help people change? So I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. And by the way, even this live is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again on Facebook, on this page, and on my YouTube channel. So go sign up for my YouTube channel. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.